I am.
This is Stacy McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, senior leaders, and C-suite executives share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders know how to share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number 1. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Loren Brockhouse. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Vanco. I'm passionate about building empathetic and successful revenue engines. At Vanco, we serve those who enrich our communities, and we do this by providing online payment processing for churches and K through 12 schools.
That's amazing. How long have you been doing that?
Vanco has been around for over 20 years. I joined them to revamp the revenue engine in 2019.
Fantastic. Well, we'll really look forward to some of your insights that you have to share today. I'm curious, Loren, what's the best thing about leading people from your perspective?
I would say nudging them to be their best and accomplishing more than what they believe possible. This resonated most with me back in about 15 years ago. I was coaching my son's football team, and I had this young man he's only 9. His name was Scope. I don't even remember his first name, but I remember working with him. He was a wrestler, really didn't know how to use his big physical body, and I helped him with his footwork, and I helped him with his hands. And the next game, he made an amazing block, and he looked over at the sidelines at his parents, and they were smiling, and the look on his face was amazing. I still get a little bit emotional when I think about it.
The difference that we get to make it, my words there, we get to make in other people's life is a virtue of putting ourselves out there that way. So
yeah,
powerful.
Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting then. That leads me to question number 3, which you might get a kick out of. It diverges a little bit from that one right there, your comments right there, where it's sometimes I'll hear from other leaders that business would be great if it weren't for that pesky people part. I'm curious, kind of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think first of all, as a person or as a leader, you've got to bury your own ego and appreciate the ideas and the talent that others bring to the table. I recommend you surround yourself with smart and ethical people who are willing to share their voice for the greater cause and really create some discomfort for you so that you can grow for the greater cause as well.
I love that. I think burying your own ego is probably one of the hardest things that a lot of leaders have to do. It's aren't you taught that you're supposed to have all the answers, right? And so kind of inherent in knowing is the ego.
Yeah, and ultimately it's really hard to be vulnerable, but that emotional intelligence to be vulnerable in the business world as well as personal is really key to inclusivity.
That's beautiful. That's true, because it's that humility and that humbleness that really allows you to be more receptive to others.
Yes.
So if I had a group of leaders in front of you right now, what piece of advice about communication would you give to them?
Yeah, I believe I would share my pillars of success, which I believe is a balance between leading with your heart and your head. First of all, I think that you need to help people find their why. And that's the greatest gift you can give someone. So if you can give them a process to become their best possible self, number 1. And then number 2, help them identify their strengths so they are aware of their strengths. And then give them ideas on how they can use those strengths to become their best self and not overuse those strengths and get in the way of becoming their best self. And then lastly, is really help them with empathy. We talked earlier about vulnerability. Vulnerability is the foundation for empathy, and it's much easier to become your best self by connecting with others along the journey, and it also increases the enrichment in life for yourself.
I love the way you keep referring back to this, becoming your best self, becoming your best self. I'm curious, is that a constant and never-ending pursuit, or is that something that, you eventually accomplish and you achieve becoming your best self?
Yeah, I always think you can be happy with where you are, but be scared if you're satisfied, because then you're going to plateau.
I love that. What do they always say? You're either living or dying, right? There's no standing still. So what other successful business leaders like yourself should be on the podcast, right? What other Loren Brockhouses out there are getting bloodied and beaten on the battlefield of business and life that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, 2 come to mind right away. First one would be Frank Malander. He's the founder of the Learning Institute. out of Chicago, and he's an executive coach. He would be a wonderful resource to share his insight. Also the author of a couple books. And then Brian O'Neill spent a lot of years at ADP, and then was one of those brave souls who ventured out and started his own company and founded Sales Empowerment Group out of Chicago. He would be another insightful person to share his wisdom.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to look them up and see if we can have them as guests on the show as well. All right, question number 6, bring us home strong. Tell us about your favorite boss or teacher who's really influenced you.
Yeah, I mentioned Frank earlier, and I'm gonna mention him again. I met him about 17 years ago, and he was the first thing he did was ask me to find my why, and he took me through a process to determine the person I wanted to become. And then he taught me the process, and he's allowed me to take that to many other people over the last 17 years. So he had taught me the appreciation to nudge me out of my comfort zone and become the best person I can become. And he means so much to me. He's the first person that I reach out to on Father's Day.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. See, and I think that's, that's the purpose of these questions, is really to start to challenge us in the audience to kind of think about, where are those people in our lives that make such a difference, and, how are we paying it forward? Because I think that's one of the greatest ways we can say thank you to the lessons that we've learned, is to share them with others, right? And so hopefully others will be thinking about their network the same way you have, and reflecting with that same sort of gratitude. It's been such a pleasure to kind of hear your ideas, and, someone of your caliber to share such, incredible insights. I'm curious, if somebody wanted to reach out and say hi or introduce themselves, how might they go about that?
A lot of people are on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok nonstop. I'm probably on LinkedIn a little bit too much. So if someone reaches out to me on LinkedIn, I will absolutely respond.
That's amazing. Well, and be sure we'll put the link to you directly in the description below. So for anybody who does want to reach out and say hi, they can absolutely find you that way. Well, again, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show. And we do hope that you'll come back and join us again. We'll write another 6 questions and have you back in the future.
I'd love to.
Yay. Well, until then, this is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator Podcast. For more ideas and insights, please do go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.